The hype for Spider-Man 2 could not be more real. As the release date gets closer, fans are frothing at the mouth for more Peter Parker, more Miles Morales, and all 19 inches of Venom. Pre-orders are flying, and add-ons like the Spider-Man controller and PS5 bundle are selling very well. Things are looking great, but I have a confession to make. I have Marvel fatigue. Ever since the release of the Spider-Man 3 movie. No, not that one. That one. And I didn't even beat the first Spider-Man yet, but that doesn't mean that I don't recognize the extreme importance and significance of this highly anticipated sequel. And so while I may not share the same type of hype as most of the fans, I am still perhaps just as eager for this game's release. Dr. Poopov here, and let me explain. When the PlayStation 5 first came out in 2020, there were a couple of PS5 exclusives, but none of these felt like full realizations of what this machine could do. They certainly expanded beyond PS4's capabilities in some respects. Demon's Souls was just so buttery smooth and beautiful, Returnal had tons of visuals flying on screen, and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart had you dimensional leaping and perhaps touched on most of the features that the PS5 was offering. But since then, most of the game releases have actually also come to PS4, like God of War and Horizon, which means that although these were amazingly impressive games that I loved, they had to be held back in some regard. And so basically what I'm trying to say is we haven't seen what seems to be like a generation-defining game for the PS5 console. But all of that changes with Spider-Man 2, because not only was it built for the PS5, it was made by a studio, Insomniac, that already has released one of the best showcases of the PS5 so far in Ratchet and Clank. And so this entry should be a full unleashing and demonstration of what this console can really do without any sort of limitations. And it's also a marker that future games from PlayStation Studios will be following suit and coming out as PlayStation 5 exclusives. It has felt like the cross-gen PS4, PS5 time period has been dragging a little bit long, and so I'm eager for this new transition into kind of PS5 only. And so with this release, I think it's just the start of a brand new phase of this console, where we get to see the full might and potential of it with each release. But Spider-Man 2 is also important for a different reason. This is a single-player game, something that PlayStation is known for, but something that lately they've seemed to be focusing less and less on. PlayStation has been putting more and more of their budget on these live service initiatives in hopes of getting some sort of a cash cow like Fortnite and potentially having something to replace their big Call of Duty money, which is in jeopardy now that Microsoft has acquired Activision. Now, in a typical year, PlayStation will release at least 2 PlayStation Studio single-player exclusives, but this year it's all riding on Spider-Man. Now, the IP power of this game, though, should be more than enough to carry PlayStation through this year, and its success should solidify the importance of the single-player game as critical to video games. This title may not have microtransactions, but they are selling a lot of add-ons, and you know that people who have still yet to upgrade from the PS4 are going to be now spending the big bucks on getting a PS5 so that they don't miss out on this very anticipated game. I think the power of this will be noticeable and should make clear for everyone that Sony won't be abandoning their single player games. I don't think whether this game was successful or not that they would be, but it is nice to have some of that confidence that single player games are still here and they are still fighting strong. But this release is also important because it also shows the power and the value of Insomniac games. This is perhaps PlayStation's best acquisition. This is a studio that is cranking out games at a great clip. Just this generation, there has been Spider-Man Remastered, Miles Morales, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, now Spider-Man 2, soon to come Wolverine, and it even seems like they have their own multiplayer in the works. This may be PlayStation's most important studio right now, and this is coming from a super Naughty Dog fanboy. And what I think is critical here is that the structure of management and operations that are going on at Insomniac can serve as a model for other studios as we enter into a phase where video games are just taking much longer and longer to make. Perhaps this insight and secret sauce at Insomniac can be shared around the PlayStation studios, so that all can benefit from what seems like best practices to get games out at a pretty fast clip. This also seems to be in the spirit of the inter-studio collaborative nature that PlayStation seems to be trying to cultivate this generation. And so I'm eager for all the fruits of Spider-Man 2 to be seen as PlayStation 5 enters into this brand new phase. But this isn't the only PlayStation Studios game that's coming really soon. Helldivers 2 is also seemingly around the corner, and it does look pretty promising. I go over that in this video, which you should check out. But otherwise, so long, Pooper Troopers.